Hello, everybody. Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. I hope everybody was in that last panel because that was a really awesome and incredibly difficult. I think I got one question for that whole for the whole hour. Um, Welcome. Okay, so I am a writer, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and it means a lot. Oh, hey, hi. Hi, everybody. It means different things to me on different days. It actually can mean different things to me at different times of the day. Being a writer doesn't really tell anybody anything about what you actually do. And I think that there's a lot of things that I know now that I wish I had known much earlier on in my career. A lot of little helpful things that I wish people had told me. And I'm hoping that I can give you guys some insights into weird little things about writing and maybe ways to frame the whole concept of what you are as a writer that may just help you navigate your actual work, whatever you decide to do, whatever you decide to have fun with, whatever you decide to try to make a career, whatever you decide to just do for communicating with your friends. There's there's so many different ways you can pursue writing that it doesn't mean very much when you tell people you're a writer. I am going to, oops, move this little window away. So yeah, so you guys are totally welcome to follow me and to ask me any questions you want after the panel as well. If you have any specific questions that I don't answer during this hour, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Threads. You can find me on Blue Sky, and I'm loving Blue Sky. And you can find me on Facebook as well. And you're welcome to email me at jen.frankel@gmail.com. So let's get going and take a look at what navigating for writers is all about. And so, being a writer in this brave new world of social media, podcasts, trad, and indie publishing can be daunting. And I know this. It can be really overwhelming when you start looking at what you might want to do. You have an idea, you have a story you want to tell, and even if you've managed to get it down on paper or onto your computer, you're going to be wondering what you do with it now. How do you actually get it to people? How do you actually get your work into the hands of the people that are going to consume it? I want to open your horizons to the endless opportunities to develop your work and connect with your peers. Have the artistic life that suits you instead of trying to adjust to a one-size-fits-all concept of success. I know I'm just reading what it says, but okay, so when you talk about writing, are we talking about writing books? Are we talking about writing podcasts, short fiction, flash fiction, music, lyrics, poetry, journalism? Are we talking about um, writing for videos? Are we talking about writing film or television for animation? I expect a lot of people probably are interested in writing for animation. Are you writing because you have passionate ideas that you want to communicate to other people? And so you writing as an activist? Or do you want to actually connect with people in a live venue? So you're writing, but you're writing for an actual live event. So many different things you could be doing as a writer. So let's create. The biggest thing that I can tell you about writing is that writing is essentially a search for truth. And that can get very muddy as soon as you start to share your writing beyond your page, beyond your own controlled environment where you get to control everything. I mean, one of the reasons that that I love writing and that I didn't end up staying, I started out as a writer and an actor, but when you're an actor, you don't have as much control. When you're a writer, you get to manipulate everybody. You get to sit above all your characters, and they will all do what you want them to do. So that's when you're writing, when you're actually in the process of being a solitary writer, and being a writer is very solitary. Most of the work you do on your own with nobody else looking over your shoulder. Um, truth is hard to find, but it's a lot easier to find when you're not dealing with anybody else. When you're actually just you on your own, and you're actually interfacing with a pencil or a paper or your word processor. Anything that you believe is true, you can record. When you actually move away from your solo practice, your truthful solo practice, you'll find really quickly that it's easy to find out that truth is a lot of different things. So for me, I always try to remember that truth is at the heart of my personal, private practice. When I write, I'm as truthful as I possibly can be. When I go outside of myself, my main goal is connection. So I'm still trying to find that truth, but that truth is going to take on different forms. So if you remember, truth is at the heart of your private practice, connection is at the heart of your public one. You'll never feel that you're compromising your truth when you're interfacing with other people, because when you share your work, it's necessarily a collaboration between writer and viewer, between writer and reader. There's always contribution that's being made by the people that are reading your work. And if you can actually embrace that, I think you'll find that you won't be as afraid to share your work, and you will be interested to see what comes back to you when you do share your work. So what do we do? First of all, the most important thing, and I cannot say this enough, if you want to write, you have to write. You have to sit there in front of a screen, in front of a page. You have to put that time in. There is no substitution for the work that you actually do writing. No matter how many ideas, I mean, we make fun of all the time of like the idea that you can build worlds forever and never actually write a story, but it's way too easy to do. At some point, you have to bite off a little piece of that beautiful world that you've built. And yeah, I know, right? You have to bite off a little bit of that world and tell an actual story. I read a really great dissection of the difference between premise and plot, because sometimes you can conflate those two, but a premise is your world building. A premise is we've got a place that has dragons and robots, and you're going to and there's going to be a constant battle between the rich and the poor. That's a great premise. It's not a story. It's not a plot. You take that story, in order to actually get yourself somewhere with that story, you're going to have to say, I'm going to take one young man whose dragon died, and he's looking for another dragon, and a robot who wants to be a dragon. So the two of them are going to get together, and then you start to have a story. You can tell an infinite number of stories within a premise. So a premise is not a story. A world that you've built is not a story. It's still not writing. It's I wish it was, because if it was, then my life would be a lot easier. So the second thing you need to do besides writing is you need to read. And one of the reasons that you read is because the experience of reading is different from the experience of writing. The experience of consuming a world that someone else has created will teach you, it will teach you things like format. It will teach you things like pacing. It will teach you things like, it will expand your vocabulary. It'll show you, and this is a really strange one, it'll show you what the words look like on the page if you're writing in a format that you have consumed in another way. So for example, if you're used to watching anime, and you love watching anime, it's a very different experience listening to characters that already are voiced and animated than it is from looking at the characters as words on a page. when you actually write your script for your anime, you're going to have to know what it looks like on a page. It's great to know what it looks like once it's all up on its feet, once all that other collaboration, but from animators and from voice actors and from directors and from producers and from all the other stuff that you don't see behind the scenes. It's great to see what the finished product is, but you're at some point going to have to know as a writer what that initial blueprint looks like that you're handing to those other creators. A script, a screenplay. These things are more than anything, they're blueprints. And when you look at a house, you may know exactly what a house looks like. You may know how to walk around a house. You may be able to dissect the house and decide that you really would like to see the house with different windows, or you can edit a house on its feet. But in order to actually build your own house, you are going to have to learn the language of architecture. You're going to have to learn the language of blueprints. You're going to have to learn what all the little fiddly symbols mean. You're going to have to learn how to work with engineers and with builders. It's a very different experience between reading and consuming the thing that the thing is in its final product. So when you're reading, you're going to read the basic baseline original version of what you may only know as a finished product. So you gotta, so looking under the hood. It's a really wonderful thing to go and look at scripts if you're interested in looking at writing for film or television. Being able to download or read online, there are tons of resources, and I'll get to this. There are tons of resources where you can actually look at scripts of famous people, famous products that you know. There's lots of databases where you can actually check out scripts online. And the ability to see the way that somebody, to be able to read one of your favorite films and to see where it came from and where it ended up is going to help you more than almost anything that somebody's going to teach you in a classroom. So yeah, so read, write. No matter what you're going to write, these are three things that I think you always have to kind of take into consideration. Number one is time. You're going to have to get your butt into your chair at some point. You're going to have to sit down, and you're going to have to spend a ton of time staring at a blank page or a blank screen. I know it's hard to explain to people. I'm sure that you as writers yourselves, you probably know how hard it is to explain to people not just how much time you spend actually writing, but how much time you spend writing where you're not writing. Because writing happens, yeah, I know. See, I wish, Dart the Dense Boy, I would love to sit down and write what's in my head. I would love to be able to crack my head open and just have the story fall out onto the page. If I could do that, I think that's actually an idea. I think I would love to be able to just magically get from the idea point to the finished product. But that time, you are not just writing when you're writing. You're writing, a lot of times you're writing all the time. You write when you wake up in the morning and you're lying in bed and you've got an idea and you're following it through. You write when you're doing the dishes. You write when you're talking to other people and they wonder why you're kind of zoned out. There's a lot of time that goes into writing that isn't necessarily even just the sitting in front of the screen writing. So time, definitely going to have to take time into account. Another thing you have to take into account is tools. You're going to need something to work with. It doesn't have to be fancy, but whether you've got a pen that you love, whether you've got a word processor that you love. I've gotten into the habit in the last couple of years writing almost everything in my notes app on my phone. I've like most of my, I actually had to learn touch typing at school, so I can type pretty fast with a regular keyboard, but my God, like I am spending more time with my thumbs than almost than I really can believe that I spend with my thumbs. If you told me 10 years ago that I would be writing mostly on my phone, I would not have believed you. But those tools are important, and there's a lot of tools that you may not think about that will help you out immensely. Just like things that take a little bit of pressure off you, take things that just make your life a little bit easier. And I'll talk about some of those. And then the last thing you need to consider, and you don't necessarily have to be considering a target. The target is where you want that writing to end up. You're looking for a lot of times somebody to bridge the gap between you and a consumer. And I know I talk about this kind of in marketing terms, but I really think of writing as something that is food for people. Like we're producing food for people's brains. So we need somebody to help us get from our computer screen to the person that needs to eat our words. So there's the target, there's the markets, there's ways you can get directly to readers too. But there's always that, there was always that kind of completion. Like I've always felt that writing isn't entirely completed until somebody actually reads it. Like I'm only bringing 50% of the story myself, and it's when I hand it off to the reader that's when it's finished. And the nice thing is that it means that your work can be finished a million different times, a million different ways. Every time somebody reads it, even if somebody reads the same thing twice, they're going to get something else out of it. It's that kind of feeling of completion. Like I used to get really upset sometimes thinking that, you could take your writing and it was like you'd cut off an arm and given it to somebody, and then you come over to their house and it's like stuck in an umbrella stand, and you're like, that's not what that writing was meant for. So for a while, I used to actually sometimes get upset that maybe my writing would be like not consumed in a way that would make me happy. But that's the idea that you've got the truth that you put down on the page, and then there's the communication. So whenever you communicate, you've always got a little bit of telephone happening with between you and your writer, between you and your friends. When you talk to your friends, sometimes they're not hearing exactly what you're saying, but that's part of the excitement of writing as a communication medium. Oh yeah, I love the notebook recording on phone too. I've started doing a lot of just like dictating into my phone, and I'm actually starting to like figure out exactly what the foibles of my particular, like each of the different apps that has a recording function where I can dictate, like the different ways that each of them misinterpret the things I say. Yeah, it's fun. Definitely. So there's a lot of free tools that you can use. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Some of my friends have recently moved over to these freaking gorgeous dedicated notebook computers that are just like, they're just basically a page, and you write longhand on the page, and it just I should have looked up what they're called because I can't. Like the name has just gone entirely out of my head. If anybody in the chat knows, there's a brand of these wonderful notebooks that are just basically a screen with a stylus, and you can write, and everything gets digitized as you write. They're beautiful. They're expensive, but you don't need that. Like most of my writing in my entire life has been done in notebooks longhand. Notebooks are cheap. At one point, I was actually spending a recognizable amount of my income on, I think food, rent, and notebooks were my three largest purchases, and then followed probably by movies. But so every computer, every phone, most phones come with some kind of text app. Apple just introduced in one of the last updates a journal app that's kind of cool. It's kind of nice. I was initially really excited about Apple's uh, notes function. There's an app on Apple computers that's actually a word processor, but it does not play well with other word processors. So I would don't really always go to that. I have the same problem with Google. It's great to be able to use Google because you can collaborate with people around the world really easily. Being able to collaborate online is really helpful sometimes, but I find that with the Google products, they sometimes have some weird artifacts when you try to export the text. So unless you're going to stay in Word and stay in Google Docs, sometimes there's problems. When you're as a writer, you're going to want to make sure that you have some kind of word processor, because you're not going to be able to share your work easily if it's longhand. I'm not sure about, someone's asking about Google Docs and AI. To be honest, anytime I put anything online, anytime I put anything on Google, or like even if I'm uploading it to my own website or anything, I just, oh, so someone says that there is issues with Google Docs and AI. I would just assume that anything you put online is not private and is not safe in terms of copyright. Like there's always going to be issues when you put something online. You just assume.
Quick
that,
interruption. But thank you so much for the donation, Stephen. Thank
oh,
you.
Thank you, Stephen. Did everyone get to hear that? That was cool. Yeah, so I don't know. Personally, I just assume that anything that I put online is less than secure. But I'm also not particularly worried about copyright. I know that's not necessarily what you're asking about with AI. Especially when you're starting out as a writer, there's often a real fear that somebody's going to steal your work. It's the same thing with what I was saying with premise and plot. Even if somebody steals your idea, they're not going to write the same story that you wrote. It probably will not be even recognizable as the same story. So don't be too worried about showing people things. There's a tendency when you're starting out to want to have everyone sign a non-disclosure agreement, or to promise not to steal your work, or to make sure that you have copyright secured somehow. It's great to secure your copyrights, but it's also much more important to make sure people see your work. I would say that that making sure that you get your work out to people is more important than worrying whether they're going to steal it. The baseline for word processor, you need to be able to export your text in docx, PDF, or rich text. Every place you submit to will have a different format that they insist that you submit in. You must make sure that you submit the way that any place that you're submitting your work to. If you're, whether it's an agent or some kind of publishing company or contest, you have to adhere to their formatting requirements. So you need that much technical knowledge. You don't need a lot more technical knowledge than that. It's also good to be able to have a word processor that gives you at least some form of control over page numbers and formatting, so that you can decide how you want your words to appear on the page, so that it's the same when that you can know how the reader is going to be seeing it. And that's just a small professionalism thing, and you'll build your ability to match your formatting to whatever the requirement is as you go. But yeah, to make sure that you actually have a word processor that gives you the option for headers and footers, so that you can put your page numbers where you need them, so that you can decide where your page breaks go, so that if you can decide how many how you want the paragraphs to break across the bottoms of pages and things like that. And these are things that you will pick up as you go. But yeah, make sure you have a word processor. And there are lots of good free ones. My favorite free word processor is LibreOffice. It's open source. It's side project of OpenOffice. If you've used OpenOffice, I find LibreOffice is updated more frequently, so that's most of the reason why I bother with it. Why I use that instead of OpenOffice. If you're a screenwriter, Keltex is a great free screenwriting software. It allows you to export in PDF form. You're almost always with screenplays going to be submitting in PDF form because the formatting for screenplays is so specific. You want to make sure that it's nailed down and that's exactly the same. That you know exactly how it's going to appear when somebody opens up your file. You want to be able to control that. I used to write at the very beginning of my career. I would write screenplays in Word, which required millions of tab stops and no end of headaches. And I'm so glad that those days are over. Final Draft, if you can afford it, is a fantastic program. There's also other programs I'll tell you about that you can use for screenplays. Some that are online, some that allow you to collaborate with other people, which is always fun. Collaborating on scripts is a total joy. I hope you'll get a chance to do that. If you want to do video production and editing, if you actually want to take your scripts and put them on their feet, so to speak, there's so many great apps that have come with the rise of social media. If you decide to want to broadcast, you've got to check out OBS, the open broadcasting software, or Twitch, like we're streaming. I really enjoy streaming on Twitch too. There's lots of great video editing softwares. If you have Apple, iMovie is actually not a bad basic program. Final Cut's one of my favorites. Everybody tends to go down one route when they start doing video productions. So some people will swear by Adobe Premiere Pro. Some people will swear by DaVinci Resolve. Some people will swear by what are the other ones? There's tons of different ones, and usually everybody gets their favorite, and then you actually learn the tips and the tricks of that particular software, and you'll probably end up gravitating towards it more often. If you do any sound recording at all, and this is including if you even want to record yourself reading your, we're actually using OBS for this, right? Yeah. I love OBS. It gives you so much control over how you get your screen presented, and you can have so much fun. Audacity, though, for recording audio, it is clean, it is sweet, it is easy, it is powerful as all hell. And there's nothing more fun than actually sitting, like taking a piece of your work and recording yourself reading it. And I would highly recommend, even if you don't record it, I would highly recommend every now and then you just read your story out loud. You learn a lot about who you are as a writer when you're reading out loud.
We have another donation from Steven. Thank you.
Oh, hey, another donation. This is great. Thank you, Steven. This is awesome. All right. The biggest, most wonderful secret I can give you, and I don't know where all of you guys are based. If you're based in Guelph, like the con ostensibly is, but I think most of the libraries in Ontario now have these things called maker spaces. Public library system has some of the most astonishing free equipment that you can use. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I just got a text from Doug Ford telling me that he wants me to vote for him to be his mayor. Love those things. Makerspace, the one in Guelph, just so you know, you have free access with sometimes just small costs for materials, 3D printers, 3D laser printer where you can actually cut, engrave wood and acrylic materials. They have the Apple Pencil, which is the stylus for if you want to like do any drawing. Button makers, embroidery machines, Cricut, vinyl cutters, digitization stations, and they also have access. They also give you free access. You just have to book in usually. Tons of video and audio editing software. Usually DaVinci Resolve. They usually have cameras, ring lights, green screen, and a full access to an entire Adobe suite. So you can go in and play with Photoshop or Illustrator. Maker spaces are incredible. Take advantage of them. Take tons of advantage of them. And the other thing that that the libraries do that is something you should know about is that they have full resources for small press printing. They will walk you through the process of what I'm going to talk about next, which is print on demand publishing. They will. Oh yeah, Halton Hills has stuff too. Awesome. Yeah, those Doug bots. Doug bots. That's perfect. Yeah, like every time I turn on my data, I'd like, oh, I just get one. Doesn't he know that I'm an artist? And artists have no interest in conservative politics that want to defund all of the arts. That's my entire PSA today. That's as political as I'm getting today. Okay, yeah. So Makerspace, tons of great stuff, all free. The connection part of getting your work from you to readers. Social media is amazing. There are tons of groups on social media and groupings of accounts that you can follow to find submission calls. One of the places that I find calls for writing more than anything else right now, Blue Sky, Instagram. I'm actually part of a group on Instagram that's GTA poetry publishing and event opportunities. So like 4 or 5 times a day, I'll be getting information about different open mics that are running where I can go and try out my poetry, different submission calls for magazines. It's there's no end to the different avenues you can discover looking on social media. The most important thing I'm going to tell you, if you are interested in pursuing writing, just as kind of in your most standard, typical, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to send stuff out and try to get publishers to publish me. The greatest resource I can give you is something called Duotrope. Duotrope is a database that aggregates thousands and thousands of markets and agents and publishers, and is searchable. So you can upload, so you can actually search by word count, by subject matter, by the amount that a market pays, by the amount of time that they take to get back to you. Duotrope is fantastic. It costs about $50 a year. It's really, really well worth it. If you get 1 or 2 things published, it pays for itself, but you're also with Duotrope able to read essays about, or sorry, interviews with different publishers so that you can get an idea for what they're looking for. When you're looking to publish, you're really looking to create a relationship between yourself and editors and publishers and possibly agents. And if you start to think of it more as relationship building rather than rejection versus acceptance, you'll find, I think, that the sting is kind of taken out of the rejections. Because Stephen King said that that you have to just think of sending out work as, I sent it out to the person who can understand and appreciate my writing, and it just came back not at this address. So there's no shame in a rejection, because all it means is that your piece came there at the wrong time to the wrong person. It was just the wrong piece for that day. There's nothing in the world that says that your piece wouldn't be absolutely perfect for somebody else. There's other places you can take a look for. IMDb is a great resource if you're looking to write scripts. Film Freeway and the Writers Market. Used to have to buy this like 3 or 4 inch thick book every single year that had a print version of all of the writers markets that were available in a given year, sort of vetted for you. um, I I'm so glad that it's online now. There's also lots of job postings, contests, grants that you can look at. Working Culture is a fantastic website that's all Canadian culture jobs. So everything from working in theaters to magazines. Canada Council will give you information about grants. Um, there's different granting levels. Canada Council, then if you're in Ontario, Ontario Arts Council, each province has its own arts council, and usually each municipality, each city or region will have its own grants as well. Indeed is a website for employment, but you can always sometimes you can find stuff for writers on there too. Coverfly is great for information. It aggregates a lot of grants and a lot of contests and opportunities for screenwriters. And always check in with your local library, because there's no place better to find ways to connect with writers and with the writing community than your libraries. All right. I'm hoping to leave a little bit of time for questions at the end, but I did want to talk to you about print on demand. There has never been an easier time to be a writer who publishes your own work than now. I've been self-publishing on and off for 25 years. I got into it pretty early. The company I published with actually was eventually bought by Amazon, and it became CreateSpace by Amazon, and now it's Kindle KDP Publishing. You are able to print books that look indistinguishable from large corporations printing books. Free and cheap setup on a lot of different platforms, including Ingram Spark, Lulu, and KDP. As a Canadian, you have access to a free ISBN. This is the International Standard Book Number. Every book needs to have an ISBN in order to be, you're considered a real book when you've got it. You need to have an ISBN in order to sell through Amazon or through other companies like that. In order to sell your book to anybody, you basically need to have an ISBN number. In the States, you're going to be paying $100 per ISBN. And you're going to be looking to buy packages of ISBNs, because if you put out a book that also has an audiobook and also has an ebook, that's 3 different ISBN numbers. Canadians get it for free. When you put out your own book, there used to be a big stigma against people actually self-publishing. That stigma is mostly gone. It really means when you put out a book that's a print on demand, print on demand basically just means that you're putting out a book where the book itself isn't actually produced until somebody buys it. So you don't have to carry a stock of books. What I've been doing most of my career is for the books that I self-publish, I actually print a bunch of them for going to a convention like Kanji or something. Otherwise, I just am promoting the books online and trying to get people to buy them from Amazon or Ingram or for what other sites that I've got them listed on. But the only thing that distinguishes your print-on-demand book from a professionally produced big traditional publisher it's usually going to be the quality of the artwork on the front cover. It's going to be the quality of the editing. So if you are taking time and putting an investment into making sure that you're writing the best book possible, that you get beta readers to read it before it goes out, that you get a couple of good editors on it to make sure that it's as close to perfect as you can get it. There's a joke that the best way to, yeah, editors are incredibly important. There's a joke that the best way to find a mistake in a print-on-demand book is for the author to open it up randomly to any given page, and there will inevitably be the one mistake you missed will be right there. But yeah, so if you're printing, so print on demand is a great way to get your work out to people. And it's also a great way just to try things out. If you want to make sure that people are actually connecting with your story, print on demand is a cheap and easy way to get it into people's hands. I love just printing off copies of books and being able to give them out. I'm going to skip over podcasting. And we're going to have to wrap up soon. So if you do have questions, please start putting them in the chat. And it just like to finish off from me, here are just some ideas. If you do want to write, there's all sorts of things that you can be doing just on an ad hoc basis. You can create your own zine. Zines are freaking awesome. There's lots of ways to connect with community if you put out a call and actually bring other people's work into your orbit instead of trying to get your work into their orbit. It's always nice to be able to reciprocate too. If you want somebody to read your work, to offer to read their work as well. A lot of the best work I've read ever has come out of little zines that just pop out of nowhere. Start a writers group, join a writers group. Again, libraries are a great resource for this. Being able to talk to other writers gets you into, yes, cooperation. I want to make that like an evil thing, like cooperation. Being able to share your work with other people, you'll find that other writers will come across opportunities that you don't know about. So, suddenly you'll find out that there's an editor who you would love to work with, who's giving a panel discussion or a workshop. One thing I've done all my life is host open mics. I love bringing together people and having an audience and getting everyone up on their feet, doing their poetry or their or chapters from their stories. There's open mics are fun. Open mics are really fun. And why not? Like, propose a panel for your favorite convention. I mean, you never know where you're going to end up in front of people, right? So to recap, writing starts with ideas, but from there, the sky is absolutely the limit. You can go to places that you would never know. And you can end up writing things you would never expect to write. Writing is a skill, and if you have developed that skill, if you've worked at it, if you want to keep working at it, there are all sorts of different workplaces you can end up in. I ended up writing some scripts for a multimedia installation in in Newfoundland. Like, you never know what you're going to end up doing. So just always think about it in terms of getting your tools together so that you have the ability to put your work down, take the time to put it down, and then find the places to send your work out to. And if you're not getting what you want out of the opportunities that you see around you, create your own opportunities. And I can't say that strongly enough. Everybody who is an artist is better when they support other artists. We give we give yeah, start an online convention. uh, or just volunteer for Kanji. I mean, volunteer, get involved. Um, it's hard work to write. It is brain busting some days, but it is so rewarding, and it can be so much fun. I mean, the 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 idea of creating a job for yourself where your main goal is to entertain yourself. How could that possibly be a terrible thing? Please feel free to reach out to me. All of my contact info is there if you want to take a screenshot, or if I can, I don't know if I can send out this PDF to you guys. I may be able to talk to the con and find out if I can do that. But yeah, find me on any of social media, and just reach out, ask anything you like. I'm always willing to I'm always willing to answer questions that will stop you from making the foot in your mouth mistakes that I have made throughout my career. Are there any questions? And thank you guys so much for coming and being here with me this afternoon. This has been really fun.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing panel. And yes, if you send me the link, I can absolutely post your slides.
Awesome, awesome. I will do that. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing that pan. For suggestions for scripting a comic, yeah, you know what? There are some really amazing books out there, and there's honestly one of my favorite writers. Her name is Christy Marks. Let me just see if I can get the spelling of her name. If you remember, you guys are like not old enough, but some of you probably are. I was just saying that. She's the creator of Gem and the Holograms. I got a chance to actually have lunch with her when I was out in Hollywood once. But she's written some amazing books on how to write books, on how to write comic books, and also on how to write multi yeah, some of us are nice. Some of us are nice and old. Yeah, she's written some really good books. There are some amazing books out there by people that whose comics you probably love reading. There's also Mutt. There's a couple of screenwrite of animation and comic book um, uh, studios in Toronto that actually have training programs. What is it? Of course, I can't remember anything. There were some really great studios though. Like Toronto's got at least 2 or 3 different comic book training centers, um, and you'll often see them at conventions too. So sometimes you can actually connect with them there. But yeah, take a look. There's my brain has just drawn an entire blank on that. But yeah, no, there's definitely some great training programs, and the nice thing about those training programs is, yes, they might cost a bit of money, but you will make connections in those programs that will do an incredibly, like, that will be better for you. Some of the connections you make in those programs you can't make any other way. I think we're wrapping up. So
Yes.
if there's no more questions, or if there are more questions, just reach out to me on any other platform you feel like. And if I have more brain power at another point of time, when you send me a question and I can like find my brain power and Google things so that think I look smarter than I am because I'm using Google. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you so much for
Such a
coming.
pleasure coming back to Conji. Thank you so much, Condragon.
Thank you. All right. Take care.